What's going on, everybody? Zachariah, Kaine and Abel. I've been a musician and an artist for over 10 years now. I've found throughout my life that creating melodies, instrumentals, pieces, however you want to word it, is one of the most soothing things for my soul, for my being, for my health, for everything. It just is perfect for me. Taking something I love like music and then mixing that with something else that I'm super in love with like video games, mixing the two, there can be some of the best results for me and for a lot of people, just in general. Now, when it comes to Resident Evil, I feel like the soundtracks, background musics, pieces, titles, themes, they get overlooked. They get overshadowed by gameplay mechanics and story. A lot of other things that overshadow it. And I feel like that's unjust. I feel like Resident Evil has some of the best music in all of video games, pop culture, and just music in and of itself. I feel like genuinely Resident Evil has some classic pieces. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna take my top 15 Resident Evil themes, background music, OSTs, pieces, however you wanna look at that. My top 15 pieces of music in all of Resident Evil. It's gonna be broke down today. So like, subscribe, comment if you're down with that. And if you're not, we got 2 words for you. Let's go. Number 15, Neptunes Tank theme, Resident Evil Remake. Now, it isn't often that a remade or a reimagined theme will ever deliver better results than its predecessor. However, that's exactly what Neptunes Tank pulled off. Expanding the boundaries of the 1996 admittedly good guardhouse basement theme, Neptunes Tank does far beyond enough to further the fear factor intended for this section of the game. Taking the exact same 4 notes from the original theme, slowing the tempo and drawl on them and adding an echo mixed with an undertone of mysterious synth and industrial-esque background patterns to give the theme a much more aquatic feel. Then fading away and being replaced with an absolute nightmare-inducing string section that's sure to keep every player on the edge of their seat. The entire theme gives off this feeling of the unknown, which is best for this section, featuring an aqua ring that's collapsed, causing the contents within to flood the observation area. An unseen and unnerving feeling as we pass over a grated floor, now up to our waist in cold, dark water. Knowing these same waters once held a shark named Neptune only pushes our anxiety closer to the forefront. Mysterious, black, cold, and unknown. Neptune's Tank theme is an absolute gem in the crown on the head of survival horror. Number 14, Secure Place, Save Room theme, Resident Evil 2. An instant classic for so many Resident Evil fans. From the onset of this track, I'm sure most of you were instantly taken back to that first floor of the RPD in the dark room. The first save room for many Resident Evil fans, considering the overwhelming amount of love Resident Evil 2 still gets to this day, and deservingly so. This theme introduced an entire generation to their first true moment of relief in an otherwise intense game. Opening up the storage box, using the typewriter on the desk, or even browsing the photo development area of the room, this song made us not want to leave. This underlying sense of impending dread is being carried on the entire time as the focal point is on the simplest piano pattern in the spotlight, helping to calm us with the strings tucked beautifully behind it. A legendary piece of music and one that stands the test of time for many people's favorite save room theme in general. Secure Place does what it's intended to do, help us feel secure in here for the moment, as we prepare to leave Sanctuary and re-enter a dying Raccoon City. Number 13, Ada's theme, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 6. Majestic beauty from its first note. I'll be the first to admit that this theme genuinely grew over me over time, just like the character of Ada Wong herself, blending both a sense of beauty and mystery, 2 words that can describe Ada as good as any. The beautiful touch of the use of the flute as a main focus for this theme is the chef's kiss, in my opinion. The bamboo flute being a staple of Asian music culture is all too appropriate for Ada, who's listed as being Chinese American, although due to the mystery surrounding her, this has never been canonically confirmed, but we can pretty much assume. For that matter, to dive deeper into that rabbit hole, her name Ada isn't even truly her name. Very befitting is a theme of this enigmatic structure to be associated with someone as important yet as unknown as Ada Wong. An extremely relaxing melody with touches of danger in the piano. There couldn't be a better theme for the role Ada's played in the franchise. A masterclass in character themes, Ada's theme is simply beautiful. Number 12, The Library, Resident Evil 2. The Raccoon City Police Department is a harvest ground for some of the most iconic themes in all of Resident Evil. Whether it's the main hall, the second floor, or any of its branching rooms, the entire RPD has its own mood, one of horror and fear.
For one reason or another, the most captivating and memorable theme in the entire building for me, hands down, is the library theme. Considering this song only plays in the library, I constantly rack my brain to try to figure out why this song is the one I think of first when I think of the RPD. Now, it definitely is fitting for every area inside, and maybe that's why I associate it with the building in its entirety. The mystery wrapped within the theme is as good as it gets for Resident Evil 2 as well. The synth strings, the tiniest harp section, the iconic piano. The tension is as thick as it gets in the entire game in this single track, whether that be due to the liquors, the presence of Mr. X, or the entire atmosphere itself. Relaxation and quiet time are definitely not associated with this library. Number 11, The Marshalling Yard, the latter half, Resident Evil 2. Another iconic track from the Resident Evil 2 library, no pun. The Marshalling Yard latter half is one of the few pieces in the franchise that invoke more than just two emotions in me. Deserted and desperate, alone, mysterious and suspenseful with the smoothest undertone of relaxation. It's rare for a song to bring out so many different feelings at once, knowing the battle is nearing climax, yet letting our imagination take hold of our thoughts on just how much is left. Processing the events leading up to the Marshall Yard, this theme almost acts as a line teetering the breaking point. Just how much can one person take? This track's beautiful as it dabbles between ethereal vibes and then brings itself back down to the root of the evil, as the echoed notes pluck in a pattern feeling very fitting for this area. On top of this, the single long-winded note underneath the entire track keeps the presence of imminent danger always right there. See, peace and fear, they usually don't go hand in hand, but when it comes to the Marshalling Yard's latter half, the two find a beautiful melodic meadow to travel through, maintaining the calm while still expecting the terror ahead. Number 10, Peace of Mind, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil. The save rooms, they've become an iconic staple of all of Resident Evil. The one room that allows you to take a second to separate yourself from madness as you enter that door. These rooms are known for their soothing and almost out-of-place tracks amid an otherwise nightmare-fueled environment bookending these mini structures. Now, when I hear Save Room, Peace of Mind is almost always one of the first tracks that pop into my head. That ambient synthesizer grouped with an almost MIDI-style chord section helps create one of the most relaxing pieces of music in the original game. But at the same time, managing to keep this very eerie undertone that sure, this may be a safe room, but we're still not yet truly safe. Number 9, Character Select Theme, Resident Evil Outbreak. A highly underrated game, yet a super enjoyable entry into this franchise, Resident Evil Outbreak introduced a co-op based mechanic that was unfortunately far ahead of its time. From the atmospheres in each of the stages and familiarity from the other Resident Evils, to the charm of each characters themselves, Outbreak absolutely sets itself apart from any other entry in the franchise. And its polarizing soundtrack, well, that only added to the fact that they put so much time and care into this game. Most of all to me was the character select screen theme. That haunting choir with its droning melody section blended perfectly with creepy strings keep what should be a pretty standard select screen feeling more like it's your last chance to turn back before descending into an inescapable outbreak. Topped off with the simplest yet most effective 5-note piano section to bring this gorgeously uneasy piece of music full circle. Number 8, Training Facility Theme, Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0 is an entry that often finds itself on the back half of a lot of people's lists. I personally adore the game though. I have some of my strongest memories of my teenage years playing this GameCube classic. Traversing Rebecca and Billy through the train portion felt different than any other Resident Evil at the time, which was honestly a good thing. Then, entering the training facility, we get that classic mansion backdrop that's become a staple in the franchise. Where Zero separates itself from previous entries is the theme of the training facility. A super industrial horn section blended beautifully with some of the most unnerving atmospheric tones in any title in the franchise to date. Choosing to add a choir section very fitting to the theme of James Marcus, along with the choice to reverb the swelling string section, giving this added feeling of depth. Almost like the notes are coming from around a corner or down a hallway, areas in the franchise that you associate typically with fear or the unknown. This track's so iconic that it was also featured as Resident Evil 0's main theme in the game selection splash page for the 2016 release of Origins Collection. A theme that captures mystery almost better than any other song on this list, the training facility theme helps set the tone for Zero in its entirety. Number 7, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil Director's Cut. Earlier I touched on Peace of Mind being one of the first songs I think of when I hear the term Save Room music. The Save Room theme from the Director's Cut edition is right beside Peace of Mind, mainly because Director's Cut was the first Resident Evil I ever played. This theme is one of my favorite Save Room themes in all of Resident Evil, and most importantly, it holds a solid place in my top 10 overall. The very archaic yet innocent music box-esque keys paired with an extremely soothing yet slightly eerie string section. This track lulls you into a sense of security while in the save room, all the while again managing to keep a very somber and almost unknowing undertone. It encapsulates that area as well as any other track released within the first 3 Resident Evil titles. And considering this was on the same soundtrack as Mansion Basement, that definitely says enough in and of itself. I am eternally pleased and calmed by the perfection of safety and worry this theme captures. Number 6, Rest, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil 0. Back with another Save Room theme from a returning title. Resident Evil 0's Save Room theme is hands down one of the best Save Room themes in all of Resident Evil. Straying from the blueprint most of the prior titles created, opting to bypass any feeling of dread or worry, this theme hangs its hat on capturing the players through sadness. An extremely emotional synth section tucked away perfectly behind an equally emotional 8-piece key pattern. This is the perfect track to accompany both soul-soothing melodies as well as heartbreaking sadness. Beautifully capped off with the faintest uplifting and almost promising horn section on the back end of the 7th and 8th bar to help tie this amazing piece of music together with grace and glory. A true Safe Room theme in name and feeling, Rest is beyond befitting of its title. Number 5, Murderous Eyes, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Most likely the biggest sleeper on my list, but the chances are if you love Code Veronica as much as I do, or if this title was as big a part of your childhood as it was mine, then I have no doubt in my mind that this theme is somewhere on your list. Now maybe not in your top 10, but it's gotta be close. The cutscene accompanying this piece is almost as iconic as it gets for the game. Every single time I get to this portion, I literally set the controller down and just watch. Moments after hearing a heart-wrenching scene involving Claire and Steve, we cut to Wesker and the main antagonist in the title, Alexia Ashford, as she descends downstairs and begins her transformation. As she approaches Wesker, the track plays, a look of shock on the face of Wesker as he watches the person he's supposed to capture mutate as the T Veronica virus takes over. Now the battle that ensues is short, but it's super powerful. The stature of these two give it that big fight feel. It's the meeting of the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Seeing Wesker wall run on fire from one of Alexia's attacks, landing a punch, and then staring at Alexia in stalemate, that legitimately gives me goosebumps every time. The impact of the cutscene would have far less effect in my opinion if not for the inclusion of the track. The instant emotion felt from the choir and the church organ's first note give us that, oh shit, it's about to go down vibe. Then building from there as the duo rise in unison in both tempo and octave, adding more vocals to deepen the impact of the moment. I honestly gush every time I talk about this song, because the build that this track pulls off is legitimately as good as it gets in the franchise. Number 4, A Moment of Relief, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil Code Veronica. A final farewell to Code Veronica on this list. A Moment of Relief is without a doubt one of the most relaxing save room themes in the entire franchise. Entering any save room and being instantly greeted with that gorgeous piano and glockenspiel combination, with the synthesized strings tucked just behind. A Moment of Relief genuinely earned its title as we exhale, surely taken back by the events we just faced. And that instant relief that undoubtedly washes over every player for the first time they enter these rooms, quickly saving and aimlessly browsing through the storage box, captivated by the comfort being ejected into our ears. In this moment, the only T-virus we're infected with is that of tranquility. I could listen to A Moment of Relief for hours and not get tired of its effect. In fact, it would likely cause my tire and turn my 2-hour game time into 8 due to its slumber that it put me in. Over-exaggerating or not, making an emotional impact the way A Moment of Relief did is one of the reasons the entire soundtrack and the game itself is held so highly in my heart. Number 3, Free From Fear, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. On the exact opposite end of the save room spectrum now. Free From Fear is one of the only tracks in the franchise I can think of with such a powerful first note. From that very first piano key, players instantly allow themselves to relax, but only for the moment. knowing the boundaries that the Nemesis broke in the franchise, and video games as a whole for that matter, constantly having the final boss be an active pursuer for most of the game turned players on their heads. Any room, any door, any corner, it could be lurking. Except in here. While we're in here, we're free from fear. The ominous backing strings and synth along with the piano echo fading off at the back end of the section does just enough to grant relief while keeping the sense of dread right behind it. Taking those higher octaves associated with happiness and safety, and coupling them with lower and scary depression-filled notes help give a genuine impact on the feeling players are truly expected to feel in the save room. Fleeing from that madness, entering this safe haven, but knowing in our heart of hearts we have to once again re-enter that. Never truly free, we can at least take this moment to gather ourselves and prepare to face a dying Raccoon City once more. Number 2, The City of Ruin, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. My absolute favorite somber track in all of Resident Evil. The feeling of the senseless loss caused by Umbrella can be felt from the very first section of this piece. Driving home the fact that these were once innocent people, living in a beautiful town, carrying on daily lives with families, jobs, and peace. All to be turned upside down with the outbreak of the T-virus. Now in ruin, the city burns as death and undead surround Jill and anyone else lucky enough to call themselves a survivor. The dark toned portions almost give off both a feeling of uncertainty and anger. Surely both emotions that Jill had felt watching what her city become. Setting out to escape and avenge the lives of the innocent that were ripped away so carelessly. Looping itself back around, the string section reintroduces itself to once again pull sadness to the forefront as buildings collapse, and a city once full of life is now the city of the dead, before slamming back into that darker, depression-filled section once again. The roller coaster ride this track takes a player on from sadness to despair, anger and fear, back to sadness, represent what I truly feel is one of the absolute finest tracks in all of Resident Evil, and all of survival horror for that matter. A must-have on any Resident Evil fans list, The City of Ruin undoubtedly holds the top soundtrack spot for any classic tank control title in the franchise. Number 1, Serenity, Save Room Theme, Resident Evil 4. What makes a great video game track? One that can instantly invoke emotion, no matter which it is. Serenity is one of the most absolutely appropriate title themes in all of video games. This track transcends Resident Evil as it gracefully encapsulates both peace and sadness in every note, effortlessly ditching the confines of video game soundtracks as it flows into the land of meditation and ASMR. A masterclass of music that massages its listeners' brains with some of the most beautiful melodies created. The faintest feeling of the unknown is completely washed away by the patterns rolling in a way that make the track feel like every note is rolling both forward and then backward, playing normal and then flowing seamlessly in reverse, smoothly swaying left to right, never sitting still. I've spent countless nights playing the 1-hour loop of this song as I rest. With my eyes closed, my brain paints the image that my body is feeling as I float in black nothingness, with wisps of color flying by me at the speed of light. Nothing can compare with this track, as I feel you compare it with plenty of other games and still get that same desired effect. It fits perfectly navigating through the solar system, choosing the next destination in Mass Effect, or taking Tidus on a stroll through the luminescent lit Macalania woods in Final Fantasy X. But in Resident Evil 4, this game lands feet on the ground with the most effortless grace. This theme surpasses just being a safe room theme, but in the context of being just that, it's head and shoulders above any and every other save room theme in the entire franchise. There isn't a track in all of Resident Evil to make as much of an everlasting impact on me as Serenity. And that's saying a lot considering 4 isn't even in my top 3 favorite Resident Evil games, but that's a list for another time. Outside of the franchise, there have only been an extremely minuscule amount of tracks in video games to capture me like Serenity did and still does. And again, maybe a list for another time. But as far as this list goes, from the earliest inceptions of ranking these tracks, there was absolutely never any doubt what my number 1 was going to be. Serenity.
Alright, so that's my top 15. I initially wanted to do 50. I just feel like that would be a really outstretched video. To some people that's cool, to some people that's not. So for the people who thought it would be cool, I threw my top 50 up for you to nerd out to, because chances are if you feel like I forgot a song, it's probably 16 to 25 to, there's some really good sleepers in there, and there's just some really iconic songs as well. This is my top 15, so you have to, take that with what it is. I'd love to hear what your guys's are. It'd be cool to see what your number one would be. Serenity for me, there's just no competition. There's just none. It's just the most chill song in all of Resident Evil. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, more content on the way. Resident Evil heavily oriented for the moment. I'm very passionate about Resident Evil, so why not keep, spilling my heart, soul, and knowledge when it comes to Resident Evil? Makes sense. So Zachariah Kaine, this is my channel, Kaine and Abel. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you in the next one.